Let's talk some ball. Welcome on in, welcome on in, welcome on into the Cards Companion. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where and when you are watching in from. I'm your host, Josh, joined by my fabulous friend, James. James, how are you doing today, man?
How you all doing? We're coming off a big week of college football, and we're going into even probably the biggest week of the year.
Yeah, man. This is this week 5 slate. When you're going through the dog days of summer, when it's like July 13th, and you're fiending and you're watching highlight films, these are the weeks that you're thinking about. This is it, man. I'm so excited for this weekend. I'm so excited just to sit on my couch, watch ball all damn day. We got a lot of great matchups, conference plays starting up around the country, and it's starting off in a big way. Before we get into week 5, though, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about week 4, if you feel so inclined. What was really interesting question that I have for you about week 4. What team are you the most disappointed in after week 4?
It has to be Clemson. Clemson leaves week 4 being 1-3. They were talked about all summer about being a top 5 team, and on paper this is a top 3 roster. You leave that press conference that Dabo Swinney had. It's one of those cries that there's two things you can do after something like that. You could either rally together behind the coach, or you can give up. And they came out completely flat against Syracuse. Syracuse jumped out on them, and Syracuse was able to just dominate on both lines of scrimmage the whole game. And Syracuse, I'm just going to be honest, is not the Syracuse they were last year. It's not that good of a team compared to what they were. But they were able to really control the pace of that whole game at Clemson, and that's something that if you told me back in July, I would have just shook my head at you.
I'm going in a different direction personally. It's another orange team. I'm going with Oklahoma State, man. I mean, Mike Gundy, he has been the rock of that program for 20 years now. He is that program, in my opinion. And I don't mean that as disrespectfully to Oklahoma State fans either. I really think he is. And to lose in that fashion to an in-state team that has the NIL budget that's maybe a fifth of yours in your home stadium when the people are still coming out to support you and your team just quits on you that way, it wouldn't surprise me if he's fired this week.
I agree. And a factor into the Mike Gundy situation is leading up to the game, the Tulsa coach came out and mentioned that they expected to win this game. That they tell all their recruits that they have an NIL that can rival Oklahoma State. So they can't recruit with the Oklahomans and the Texas, but they can out-recruit Oklahoma State. They're confident. And it shows you the state of the program in Stillwater, and you question how it's gotten so bad so fast, and you kind of just feel bad for Mike Gundy and the boys down there in Stillwater.
Yeah, and it's so funny to me because I feel like it is the complete opposite of the Clemson conversation, where with, a program like Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy, I feel like you want them to be good. And I'm not just saying that as a Louisville fan at all. Like, I genuinely, I want Mike Gundy to succeed. I want Oklahoma State to be good because that's good for the Big 12. And the better that the rest of college football is, the better it is for college football. But yeah, you want programs like Oklahoma State to be good. And when you talk about Clemson, man, everyone's been telling Dabo now for 5 years. There's going to come a point. There's going to come a point. It's been people in Clemson. It's been boosters at Clemson. It's been people in the ACC. It's been other coaches. It's been the fans. And especially, it's been the Clemson fan base, which I poo-poo on Clemson a lot. Clemson has one of the best fan bases in college football. They are locked in. College football is a 365, 240. Ugh. College football is a 365, 24/7 sport in Clemson, South Carolina. And they have been telling him constantly, you got to adjust. You got to adjust. And what does Dabo do? 5 years ago, he says, I'm not going to coach them anymore once they start getting them paid. And then you see this massive Clemson drop-off since they've started getting paid. People have been telling Dabo, and Dabo makes snide remarks to the media. and he shrugs people off because Dabo knows best. It's becoming extremely evident Dabo does not know best.
Mhm.
And what's extremely concerning about that game, Fran Brown straight up outcoached Dabo Sweeney.
I completely agree.
So you just, I mean, it's gonna get to the point where it's gonna get downright apathetic down there in Death Valley, and I don't know if we've seen a Clemson team like that in 20 years.
I did see some people comparison. I think it's too early to make these comparisons. Comparing last year's Florida State team to this year's Clemson team. I think it's two polar. They're two completely different situations. I think there's a lot of injuries that went into the Florida State situation and a quarterback decision that may have not worked out. But Norvell, we knew he could figure it out because he's done it in the past. It may have just been a bad year. Dabo, we've seen Clemson slowly fall from every year being a top 3 team, and every year it's gotten progressively worse, to the point now you see they still got the roster. They still have a top 3 roster, but you're not scared to go to Death Valley anymore.
I personally don't think you'll ever see a Florida State situation like that in a very long time. Personally, I feel like that was kind of one of those once in a very blue moon situations, because it was an all system failure, and it was an all system failure from scouting and talent acquisition as well. With Dabo, I don't know what it is other than just an unwillingness to adapt, because I talked about Dabo adapting to the portal, adapting to NIL, adapting to all these things. But what's really concerning, Dabo Sweeney is still coaching football games like it's 2012.
Mhm.
And that is a massive, massive red flag, in my opinion. But continuing to talk about teams that are underperforming, let's talk about the ACC.
Uh, so I was gonna wait, but I had to talk about this just because it's the first thing I want to talk about. It's a team that we expected to underperform. We went into the season thinking they were one of the worst P4 teams on paper in the country. First
Are you
3
talking
weeks,
about the
go
California Golden Bears?
yeah, we're talking about the California Golden Bears. You go in, all you heard all week is California got this freshman phenom. They're insane. There's a realistic chance that when they come to Louisville, they might be undefeated. And they show up. Well, they do not show up. It was ugly from an early point last night. They lost to a San Diego State team that's not very good. Like they're not. There's really no way you can word it to make excuses for how they played last night. They got shut out at home. I know I turned it up. I didn't finish it. They were down 20 points when I turned it off. I do believe the final score was 34-0.
I don't know if California ever got off the bus.
I don't think they even got on the plane. I think
I
they
mean,
might
yeah,
still.
it was ugly. You know, they were getting physically dominated. Uh, the quarterback, he's a freshman. He played like a freshman.
Yeah.
He dang played like it. With Cal, you know, that's one of those programs where, yeah, we didn't think they were going to be very good this season, and I kind of felt bad for them because that team was ravaged by the transfer portal. You know, they
Mhm.
lost 7 running backs. They lost 7 running backs. They lost one of the best tight ends in college football, and they lost one of the best quarterbacks in college football. They were killed by the portal. And yeah, they look like a team that got killed by the portal. Well, it's one of those games there, man, where that's a season altering game in of itself. And they have a very easy schedule ahead of them also in the ACC, which is
Yeah.
really concerning for Cal. Continuing to move around a little bit about underperforming teams. I don't know where I was going to go with that. I'm sorry. It
I
just completely blanked.
I got it. And speaking of another underperforming team, it's gonna shock you who I think underperformed this week. Coming off a big win at home, you expected to see so much more from Georgia Tech when they played Temple. Temple's a team that's on the bottom of the American Conference. You kind of expected to see Georgia Tech just get behind their offensive line and just run at will against that team. The defense had some serious problems yesterday. They allowed that Temple team to score 24 points on it, and they only won by 21. Don't get me wrong, you still win by 3 touchdowns, but that's one of those games if you're a Georgia Tech fan, I'm sure you can agree with me. You expect to be out of that game by the third quarter and have your starters out. It's not a good thing whenever you have Haynes King in the game in the fourth quarter in a game that you were 20+ point favorites.
Well, I know we're Louisville fans, but you kind of expect a Louisville performance against Georgia Tech. What Louisville did to Bowling Green, you kind of expect the same thing. And it's a little concerning. I still think Georgia Tech has a very easy path to the conference championship game, honestly. Um, I wouldn't read too much into it though. Me personally, I wouldn't overread into it. Continuing though with underperforming ACC teams because we got a lot of them. Old Chapel Bill.
He lost to Central.
We did. So we did a Big 12 preview show this past season. What team did you and I both say was the worst team in the Big 12?
University of Central Florida. And it wasn't really it wasn't close. It was clearly Central Florida.
It wasn't close at all. I don't know. I don't know how to. I mean, it looks like an all systems failure.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a guy that's he's trying to call a game in the 2006 AFC wildcard. For everything I just said about Dabo calling games from 15 years ago, how he calls them now, it's the same thing. And I don't mean to get into the whole NFL conversation because this is a 3-hour long debate in and of itself. They ain't got built. They don't have Tom Brady there to
Mm-hmm.
rely on. You don't have Julian Edelman. You don't have Rob Gronkowski. You don't have these guys. You don't have the best offensive line in the NFL to rely on. That is a situation where I genuinely think they could win maybe 2 games all season.
I completely agree. There's not much to comment on it. They just don't show up. And their 2 losses, they've been embarrassed against the TCU team. That, don't get me wrong, TCU is a quality Big 12 team, but TCU embarrassed North Carolina on the opening day. And last night, UCF is what we expected them. They're not a great Big 12 team, but they dominated North Carolina from start to finish in that game yesterday.
Yeah. So that's concerning. Continue to jump around the conference a little bit though. North Carolina State picks up a puzzling loss to Duke.
I want to talk about both of these teams in this because you kind of wrap North Carolina State and Duke and Virginia for that matter, all in like a team of 3 teams. They're teams that all 3 have quality quarterbacks in Darian Mensah, C.J. Bailey, and Chandler Morris. They're teams that all 3 have struggles on the offensive line. They have quality on the outside, maybe not the greatest running back room, but their defensive secondary on all 3 of these teams have some serious issues. And the linebacker room, I think Duke's definitely the lesser of the 3. I think Chandler Morris and Virginia have a little bit better of a secondary than Duke does. Duke got torched against Illinois. They got torched for a good part of the game yesterday, but they were able to get out of it. NC State's a team that we saw them get torched a couple weeks ago on Friday against a Wake Forest team that's having some issues in themselves. So you've seen their issues on the defensive side of the ball. For these 3 teams, you're kind of stuck in that middle part of the ACC like we had last year, where you had a logjam at the top, did a dramatic fall off after like position 6 in the conference. And I feel like these 3 teams all kind of pigeonholed themselves in this sector of the conference right now due to some poor defensive play. It can build, but right now you have a lot of question marks in Raleigh and Durham.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, I can't put it any better myself. That's the antithesis of it all. Continuing to jump around to not very good ACC teams, or I guess underperforming is a more kind word of saying it. What is it? Sabrina Carpenter says it's more of a cuter word of saying it. But SMU, man, the ponies. Good Lord, the ponies.
Well,
I
that's
didn't think they were going to be as good this year. I didn't think they were going to be as good. I didn't think they were going to look that bad.
okay. I'm going to say this in the most unbiased way possible because I haven't been the biggest fan of SMU in the past, but I think Kevin Jennings is a quality starter. So I'm going to give them the respect they deserve. But the team that they have fielded this year reminds me of a 2022 American SMU football. I think you can probably throw them in that mid tier with Virginia. But if they play the way they did this week in that second half against TCU against Virginia I think beats this SMU team.
I agree.
And that's very concerning for a team that's coming off a playoff and they have all the hype. And Rhett was talking about how he'd schedule SEC teams, anybody, whenever, and you feel the team that just don't show up. And I think the the marker I would think you go back to is that second half against Baylor. Whenever they allowed Baylor back into that game, I feel like that defense hasn't been able to consistently stop anybody since. From allowing Missouri State to be in that game late in the third quarter to yesterday when TCU in that second half was able to move the ball at will. There's a lot of question marks, and you're going to face better offenses in the ACC. SMU is. You get Louisville at the main end of the year. I'm pretty sure they have to play at Miami. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if that's at Miami or
Yeah,
in.
no, it's at Miami.
There's a lot of problems with that team. Right now, I got you all at like 7, 8 wins. So you have the talent, you have the skill guys on offense to be able to score a lot of points, but the defensive side of the ball, I'm just not seeing it this year. The depth on the defensive side, you just don't have the two deep that you had last year. Your ones are still good, but late in the game, it's clear once the ones are getting wore down, you
Mhm.
don't have that extra gear to this point. If you get it, congrats. But to this point, I can't give you that.
I agree. And then just kind of closing this out, we'll talk a little bit about the Florida schools. Florida State, I still don't know if they've returned from lightning delay yet.
Oh,
So that's one of those nothing games. I saw they did set a school record though.
what
They
was it?
scored the most points they've ever scored in a quarter of football.
How much do you have to score?
35 points. That was shocking to me. That was shocking to me. But I mean, there's not much you can take away from that game. Weird situation, not very good opponent. It is what it is. I think they were in lightning delay for a little over 2.5 hours, if I'm not mistaken. I know they cut the first quarter or the first half short for the lightning delay and then just came back into the third quarter. Miami, we said it last week, man. I the line was low for the Miami Florida game, but Miami they were playing probably the second most talented team they're going to play all season in Florida.
Yeah.
They pulled away a lot at the end. I thought Miami looked. I mean, it was a little rough there at the early goings, but I thought Miami looked fine. You know, I don't know if they looked like a top 10 team, but they won and they covered against your in-state rival, which you can't say no to, in my opinion.
So me and you talked about this earlier. So I think we both went in expecting Miami to win. We expected Miami to win by at least 2 touchdowns. The manner in which they played, I think, argued against some of the claims that some of their fan base had said for the past week or two. Um, don't get me wrong, Florida's got a quality defense. You saw that against the LSU last week, but the Miami receivers had some issues getting open, and I'm not putting the 17 of 30 completion rating for Carson Beck on him because the receivers just weren't getting open. The running room wasn't really there offensively. They were stalling out consistently through the second and third quarters. They made some plays on defense late that were able to get some points in that fourth quarter. Oh, you leave happy. It's a rivalry. It's always going to be weird. It's going to get nasty, as we saw last year, Michigan and Ohio State. But I think you lead this game with some clear places you need to improve. Just survive and advance, move on to the next one. Miami gets a bye week off of this one, and then they play Florida State in a week and a half, and then they get another bye week for Louisville. So they have some time to figure some stuff out and be able to scheme up some separation on the passing game. But overall, Miami, like I said, I'm still not willing to give you top five for like boldly, but you have a top 15 roster with a legitimate chance to make some noise in the playoffs. You just gotta take 1 week at a time.
Fun fact about Miami: they play one football game in the next 20 days.
Well, their bye weeks are insane. I didn't expect. I looked at their schedule and I thought I was looking at it wrong. That they're 1 week apart.
Don't you just love the ACC scheduling? Um, so we'll wrap up the ACC talk, but this is kind of how I'm feeling about the conference right now, and it's worrisome. I clearly know what Florida State, Miami are about. I think those are two 9+ win teams. I think it's very clear to the general college football public about that. Do I sound wrong in saying that?
Mm, I agree.
I feel like I clearly know what Georgia Tech is about. I think Georgia Tech is a 6-win conference team, maybe 7, but they're well established.
Hmm.
I don't know what Louisville is because Louisville's competition has been just not the best. We will know after this week when they start up conference play, but it's clearly it doesn't look like a normal Jeff Brom team there. SMU is all over the place. I don't think they're very good, but they're all over the place. Outside of that, I don't know a lot about the conference. I know that Stanford and Wake Forest are really bad. I know that at least. But I look at the top 4 of the conference, that in between section from like 1 through 4 to probably like 16, 17. It looks really bad, in my opinion. I think the conference is very weak, honestly, and that's very worrisome for the ACC that's trying to be a multi-bid league again, in my opinion.
Oh, I completely agree. I think the only path that I can see for the conference is if Louisville's able to win out. I think Louisville has to win the Miami game, or if not, win the ACC. If they don't win the Miami game, they have to win the ACC championship. Just the situation that it is with the weaker conference. I think Miami can afford to lose to Louisville if it's their only loss with the wins over the rest of their schedule. Georgia Tech has a pretty easy path the remainder of their ACC schedule. They avoid the rest of the top 4, so I like their path there. Florida State, I feel like with their path, they can afford to lose 1 or 2 here and there especially if their only loss is to Miami. That's
Yeah,
gonna
I think
that game in 2 weeks is gonna be a big one.
yeah, and I think that's kind of like my big concern is that I look at the ACC, I only see really 4 schools with a legitimate path to the college football playoff
Yeah.
at this point in time. And you can't say that about the SEC, the Big 10, or the Big 12, and that is very concerning to me. Um, just being very, very honest. I still do think the league sends two schools to the playoff. Personally, right now, I think it's probably Miami and Florida State. Louisville could do some cute boy stuff and get in. I believe that. Georgia Tech, they got their golden ticket the last game of the season. I think Georgia Tech, if you win 9+ games and you beat Georgia, you're the 12th seed.
Mhm.
So that'll wrap up our ACC conversation, though. It's that best time of the year, man. James, anything else you want to hit on from week 4 or looking forward to week 5 at all?
There's a big week of college football coming up. You're coming off a big week where you learned a lot about some teams. There's a lot of teams you don't know much about, specifically Louisville, and some other teams around the country. Like Ole Miss, we still really don't know how good Ole Miss actually is. Indiana, they played in Illinois. I think you'll think you're in a better spot if you're Indiana, but you still don't really know what you are. And I think you're not the bad thing about the Big Ten and the way it's structured, you're really not gonna know until you play one of the other top 4 in that conference, that being Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. But I think college football, you're getting in the swing of things now. You're in that weird 4-week stretch where you're really gonna start figuring out what these teams are, and it's gonna become a little bit more clear what the playoff picture is gonna look like at the back end of the season.
Yeah, man, I agree. That's kind of the same direction I would go with it. Week 5, conference play is really starting this week for pretty much everybody. Big matchups. These are the games that you're dreaming about. After this week in week 5, you're going to see 5 to 7 teams. Their college football playoff chances are going to go up like 15 to 20%.
Well,
This
another
is a big, big week.
a stat that I forgot who told me it, but Louisville right now has a 10% chance to make the playoff. If they win against Miami week 8, their chances go up to 70% to make the playoff. That's how
Yeah,
quickly
and
your chances to make the playoff can change.
and that's not just I know this is a Louisville page, so and you're wearing the Louisville hat. We tend to go a lot on Louisville, but that's not just Louisville, man. Even look at a program here like Ole Miss. Ole Miss still has a very good chance right now I believe they're sitting around a 30% chance per FPI to make college football playoff. They beat Ole Miss or they beat LSU. Man, that's going to skyrocket up to like 60% because they got nobody left on their schedule after this in the SEC. Well, at least one of the more lighter SEC schedules. I wouldn't say nobody.
And on the flip side of that, Alabama loses to Georgia the way that I predicted earlier. You could see their odds going from like 40% down to like 10.
Yeah. So this is a real, real big week around the country. Hope everybody enjoys it. Have yourself a great college football Saturday. These are some of the best times of the year, so cherish it, man. This is this is the stuff that we all we all dream about in the off season. But as always, to my friend James, thank you so much for joining me today, talking a little college football, talking a lot of ACC football. Please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share this video with your friend. It'd really help the page. Interactions help so much. Please do. Other than that, we will catch you around. Please stay tuned to the channel. We have more great videos coming. We have a little bit of recruiting news going on. We got some Louisville content, and then we'll come back to you next week, the more national content. Thank you all so much, and y'all have a great day. Talk to y'all later.
See y'all.